Hello lovely book dragons and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Joanna and I love to talk about books on this channel, specifically fantasy books. And today I want to talk to you about the 6 books I ended up reading in the month of January. Okay, so January was a pretty good reading month for me. I was ill the first week of January, which kind of made it the good time to read, you know. There was 1 or 2 days where I couldn't read at all because I was too ill to read, but then for the rest of the month I think I was able to manage balancing all my activities, work, exercising, social life, and reading pretty well. And I'm super happy I kept up with my channel. I have been posting consistently 2 videos per week, Tuesdays and Saturdays, and that makes me so happy. This was something I wanted to do. These are some of my priorities for the year, and I'm succeeding. Today, for example, I wasn't planning on filming. I did my makeup just a little bit just to work from home, you know, and then the Tress box arrived, which was my latest video. If you wanted to see that one, I will link it up here so you can see me unbox that box. And then I was just here and I was like, you know what, the camera's on, everything is set up, well, why not just film the wrap up now? So here we go. I'm going to talk to you about the books I read in the month of January. I do not rate books anymore. This is my first year no longer rating books, so I'm going to be talking to you about what I thought of them, what I liked about them, what I didn't like about them, and I'm going to talk to you in the order of the digital stuff first so that I don't forget, and then the physical books. The first book I want to talk about is a book that I ended up unfortunately DNFing roughly at the halfway point, and that is Spare by Prince Harry. When I was ill with the flu on January 1st, I binged the Netflix documentary, or the next Netflix series, whatever you want to call it, Harry and Meghan. I binged the episodes. I was totally immersed in it. I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't know, like it was an obsession that lasted for like a week. And then Prince Harry's book came out on the 9th, so I immediately got it the day it came out. I got the audiobook, I started listening to it, and then my interest kind of fizzled out as it went. And then I realized maybe my obsession with the British royal family was flu induced, and so I ended up DNFing it. I returned the audiobook, and that's kind of it. Is there anything to say about Spare? Well, I mean, if you like the royal family, if you're interested in it, read it. If not, don't. Like, really, I don't have anything else to say about this one. Then we have a book that I basically read in one day. I had to put the last hour of the audiobook to the next day just because of circumstances. But the book is Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. This is Ali Hazelwood's sophomore novel, so I was kind of nervous going into it because I'd heard very mixed things. Most people prefer her first book. Some people really dislike this book because of a miscommunication trope that's in it. And I just wanted to read it for myself. I've owned the ebook since it came out. I'd pre-ordered it. I've had access to the audiobook since forever as well. And I was supposed to buddy read this one with Elle, Sophia, and Abby in the summer, I think, or something like that, or in autumn. I don't remember. We were supposed to buddy read it, but then I was the one who didn't read it back then, so I read it now. This book, we follow our main character, and she's an engineer, and she's creating these helmets for people that go in space, if I'm not mistaken. And then she goes and works for NASA for a certain amount of time and for this project. And lo and behold, she gets there, and the head of the project is her arch nemesis from school and / future potential love interest. You know where this goes. This is a romance. That's the basic synopsis. This one was just more of the same than what happened in the first book, which I cannot for the life of me remember the name of her first book. What was it called? The Love Hypothesis. That's what that book is called. Most people prefer The Love Hypothesis, most people that I've talked to at least, and I am one of those people. I found that this book was a lot more of the same. We have the tiny petite main character who's so tiny, and the guy, he's so big and huge and he can save her. And just, I'm done with that trope. I'm just so done with all these girls having to be so tiny and quaint and quirky and ha ha ha. And just like, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And the main character was so annoying. She was so annoying. I even messaged my friend Sophia and I was like, this girl, I want to punch her. I was so angry. I was so annoyed with her. And then the ending of this book was so dramatic. Like action movie drama, and I was like, what the fuck is this ending? Like, what? No, I didn't like the ending. I didn't like the main character. What I liked was the main love interest. I really liked him compared to the love interest in Love on the Brain, in Love Hypothesis. Jesus, all these names are all the same. So yeah, I liked the love interest in this one. I liked the setting that we were in. I liked the whole NASA thing, but I just didn't like her, and I didn't like the ending of the book, which was so silly. So yeah, I liked it, but it wasn't great. And I'm gonna give her one more chance with her hero and heroine. If it's again a tall, big guy and tiny, quirky, petite girl, I'm just not gonna read it because I'm done with that. Okay, now that we've ranted about the British royal family and a silly love interest, let's talk about the fantasy books I read, because this is of course the highlight of my month. I started off the month when I was sick with the flu reading A Game of Thrones by George R. R. Martin. Of course, I am one of the co-hosts for the Song of Ice and Fire read along that's going on right now. I'm co-hosting this with Jolien, Johanna, and with Scott and with Alex, and we are just having a blast with these books. And yeah, I read this in 5 days. This is not the edition I read from, but this is one I'm holding up just because I think it's so pretty. This is the illustrated edition, and I read it in 5 days. I absolutely loved it. It is still one of my favorite books of all time. It was so nostalgic being back, and just, I loved it. This is one of my favorites. I just love this world more than anything. And I was watching, I think it was Mike and Madison in Talk About Nothing on Mike's channel. I think it was in that video where they were saying they don't tend to read books for world building, but this is the best world they've ever been in, and this is one of the selling points for them is the world of Ice and Fire. And I agree. I'm someone where world building doesn't rank at the top of what matters most to me in terms of enjoying a book or a series. I mean, if the world building is well done, if it's great, then great. Of course, I will love the book. That's, of course, it goes without saying. But it's not that if it's a bad world building that it automatically means, oh, I will not enjoy this. Not at all. I'm just like, if the world building is great, it's a bonus, but it's not a must for me. But here, I am so fascinated with this world, just as much as I am with the characters or with the plot or with everything that's going on. I'm fascinated by these prophecies, by I want to know everything from the dawn age until the end of time in this world. Like, I want to know everything. I want to know about the age of heroes. I want to know about the first men. I want to know about the Andals. I want to know about everything. I want to know about the Doom. I want to know about Summerhall. I want to know, I want everything. I want it all, and I love this world. I love these characters. I love everything about this book. Of course, still a favorite. So glad to be back. Next up, I buddy read Traitor's Blade by Sebastian de Castell with my friend Rick over on Instagram, and this one was a lot of fun. In this one, we follow the greatcoats. The king is dead, the greatcoats have been disbanded, and Falco van Valmont and fellow magistrates Castell and Brasti have been reduced to working as bodyguards for a noble man who refuses to pay them. So basically, the king, when he was alive, he had the greatcoats, which were his sworn protectors, kind of. And they were just, you know, with the king, the biggest, the baddest, the most amazing in the realm. But ever since the king died, they have been disgraced, and we only follow these three, and they are going about on adventures. And this book felt a bit episodic to me, to be honest. I liked it. I liked this book. I didn't love it. I found the ending so rushed. I found the ending was crazy. I was immersion reading it the whole time except for the ending, because I had roughly 1 hour left, but I was at the airport and I wasn't gonna take the paperback with me to just take up space in my bag. So I just listened to it and I thought, wow, this feels crazy fast to me. This feels like we're taking no time to breathe, and some characters are just like popping out with things where you're like, this makes no sense. This is not in character. Why are you reacting like this? Why are you doing this? It seems too convenient. And then I was talking with Rick about it because I was wondering, is this just me? Should I have immersion read the last couple of chapters just to be sure that I got all this? And Rick felt the exact same. So I'm glad that I'm not the only one with the problems about the ending of this book. However, I am going to continue in the series because, first of all, it is about to read with my friend Rick, and that's one of the reasons. But the second thing is, I really liked the group dynamics, and I really liked the friendships in this book. Kest and Brasti and Falco were so fun to read about. They just had the banter between them was so funny, and also the other people that came and joined the group as the story progressed. I just really, really, really liked the way that Sebastian de Castell wrote friendships. I loved it. I loved it so much, and I thought this book particularly was really fun. And it was a palate cleanser of sorts. I was reading Game of Thrones, and then in the last 2 days of reading Game of Thrones, I was balancing it out with this. And reading 50 pages of this and reading 50 pages of Game of Thrones, not the same experience. And this was really refreshing and a palate cleanser. And I thought that was great. However, I do think that the way this ends, the next 3 books can be more serious. There's probably still going to be humor because of the characters that we're following. They are humorous characters, especially some of them. But I do think that the plot is going to thicken and that the intrigue is going to come out and that more of the history, etc. is going to be more important. And I think that the next books could be more political, which I absolutely love. So I am excited to see what the rest of the series has in store for me. Right now, I like this book. I didn't love it. If if the subsequent books are like this, I will find this a fun series. It will be a fun series to just read, you know, when you need a break from big, heavy fantasy that makes you cry, but it won't be a favorite, but it could still become a favorite if the next books become a bit more, I don't know, political and depending on where the characters go. So I like this, didn't love it, but it was a fun time to buddy read and to discuss this with my buddy Rick because, I don't know, it was just so much fun. And like we had chapters and then at the end of each day we would just reconvene and talk about what we read and see, did you also find this problematic? Did you read this like this? No, I didn't read it like this. And it was just so fun, that experience in and of itself. Speaking of big, epic fantasies that make you cry, in the month of January, I ended up buddy reading both Golden Fool and Fool's Fate with my friend Sophia, thus finishing off the Tawny Man trilogy by Robin Hobb. So first of all, we read Golden Fool, which was the book that was planned for the month. But then because we loved this and we were like, okay, we just need to know what happens in the last one, we ended up reading Fool's Fate as well. And let me tell you, I do not regret adding this 800-page book to my TBR because I read this in 5 days as well. What is it with me and reading the biggest books on my TBR in 5 days this month? It was incredible. Well, this one, the audio helped, and then I read the last 7 hours in 1 day. I was just glued to this book for the last day. It was amazing. They are the sequels to the Farseer trilogy. So Realm of the Elderlings is a 16-book series broken up in 3 trilogies in one quartet. The first book is Assassin's Apprentice, and that's the only one I can tell you something about because even if I told you the synopsis of Fool's Errand, which is the first book in the Tawny Man trilogy, it would be spoilers for a lot of stuff that happens in Farseer and in the live ship books. So in Assassin's Apprentice, in the first book of the Realm of the Elderlings, we follow our main character Fitz as he's 5 or 6 years old, and he is a royal bastard. His father is the king in waiting, and he has been brought up by his mother and his maternal grandparents. And one day his maternal grandfather is like, I've had it. We are poor and we have a mouth to feed here, and kids need a lot of food. They you know, they grow and they need a lot of food. So you are costing us too much money. However, your father is the king in waiting. The castle, the palace, the royal family, they have money. Go there. So that he drops them off at the castle, and this is a scandal because the prince, the king in waiting, has a bastard and a like baseborn son, so he abdicates the throne and goes away. So Fitz actually never gets to really see his father, and the king that's there, so his grandfather, King Shrewd, says, okay, we'll take this kid in. We will not recognize him as an heir or anything, of course, because he's a bastard, but he can be helpful to us, and we're going to train him to become the royal assassin because he has enough royal blood that it's justified that he's at the castle, but he's just bastard enough that we won't make him an heir and a threat to the throne and to the inheritance, etc. He is trained to become the royal assassin, which is the title of the second book, funnily enough. So that is kind of the story of the Realm of the Elderlings. This, of course, expands and it becomes so much more, and this is shaping up to be one of my favorite series of all time, the whole 16-book series, and the Tawny Man trilogy is definitely in my top trilogies of all time. I do need to make that video at some point. I'm trying to read more series this year to see what are my favorites. So maybe at the end of the year I'll do this because there's no point in making one now and then one at the end of the year, I don't think, unless you would like that, to see if any of the series I read this year make it onto that list. But yeah, this one definitely is in my top series, in my top trilogies, and then I think the Realm of the Elderlings in general will be as well, like one of my favorite series of all time. This is the type of series, the Realm of the Elderlings, where I think that the second I'm done with the last book, I'm gonna restart it and then restart it again and restart it again because I love them so much. And I know there's so much I'm not picking up on because talking to Derri, who's read this like a million times, there's so much she knows. I'm like, I want to be you, Derri. I want to have all this knowledge in my head about I want to have knowledge about that, like the way I want to have knowledge about the Song of Ice and Fire world. So if that says you something, I love these books. That, my dear friends, is my January wrap-up. Those are the books that I ended up finishing and actually just reading because I finished my last book on the 30th or 29th, and I didn't pick up my next book until in February. So I don't have any carryover books. So these are all the books that I did read. Let me know down below if you've read any of them, what you thought of them, and let me know what your favorite book of January was. Mine was, barring rereads, because I'm not counting rereads, otherwise it would be a Game of Thrones, it was, of course, Fool's Fate. Absolutely, hands down. Those 2 books take the cake for best books I've read this month. Let me know in the comments down below what yours was, and I will see you very soon with my next video. Bye, guys.